Dresden meeting tonight. I also want to apologize for the late start of the meeting. We ran over a little bit, a little bit on the SAU meeting just prior to this, so my apologies. First up this evening, actually public hearing to accept a couple of proposed donations. We will get to public comment in a minute, but the first item on the agenda this evening is a public hearing to accept a couple of proposed donations. I don't know if either of our Jim, if you wanted to say anything about these donations, look like they're high school athletics related, or if we just want to go ahead with the motions.
Well, you've all seen the draft, or the draft is included in the agenda. I want to thank Megan Sobel for all the work that she's done on this. She spent a lot of time with this. The students are out doing physical training right now, as they've been doing it for a few weeks now. The recommendation is from the task force and the current low rates, with the current low rates of COVID, we're preparing to open for in-person instruction, and we're also going to go ahead with the reopening and believing that.
Yeah, Jim, I actually think this is the first thing that we've got up here is actually a couple of proposed donations for the high school.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And if you had any background information, I was just going to let you speak to it. But if you don't, we are perfectly fine just moving ahead with the motion to accept these donations.
I don't have any.
I can speak to the weight room if you need me to.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, the weight room project, our weight room is, and Megan's on as a panelist. So if you want to ask her questions.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even see.
Yeah, so she may be able to speak better to the weight room, but the weight room is in dire need of updating. She can give you the specifics, but basically we went out in the spring to try to figure out a way to make the updates happen. And we had some generous donors who created enough money to have a match from the Burn Foundation, because the Burn Foundation challenged us to have a match. And so that's the Burn Foundation money you have there. And sorry, I'm not looking at the document. Are the other donations also for the weight room? Yes?
I believe they are, yes.
Yeah. So a number of generous donors, plus we have a couple accounts in the school where people had given money and they wanted it to go to a project such as this. It involves updating the equipment in the weight room, and I'm going to let Megan speak to that. And then also it involves, hopefully lighting and flooring in the weight room, and she can speak to that. But pretty excited about the project, and a lot of our teams use the weight room, and it's lacking, to say the least.
Thank you, Julie. Megan, do you want to speak to it briefly?
Sure, yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My internet's a little bit spotty, so yes, we have raised a total of $85,000, and I think the board is to approve the $50,000 from the Burn Foundation and a $10,000 donation from Andrea Ciardelli. But we have, so beyond that, we had raised additional about $25,000. So that is about the total of the project. It includes all new equipment and flooring we're hoping to do as well. The equipment that's in the weight room now is very old. Much of it is broken. Much of it has old Dartmouth stickers on it. It was donated, 10, 20 years ago. So we're really excited about this project. I have had people in to look at it. We had gotten initial bids before we started the fundraising, and we have updated those and have a pretty good plan in place that we'll be able to do it within the budget. And I think the board had already approved the weight room fund previous to this. So this is just for the additional 2 gifts that were over the $10,000 amount.
Awesome. Thanks so much for
And
that.
a few of our friends groups donated money too, and other donors too. So the community is incredibly generous. And we just want to say thank you for those that are being recognized here publicly, because their donation amount is huge. but also to the people who have small donation amounts that helped this whole thing add up to $85,000. So thank you to everyone that contributed to this fundraising project.
Thank you, Julie. So with that as an introduction, I will look for a motion. Oh, come on, board, don't be shy. Oh, go ahead, John.
Move to approve the donation with gratitude from the Jack and Dorothy Byrne Foundation in the amount of $50,000 to the weight room update.
Is there a second? Seconded by Tom. Any discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. I will start with John Hunt.
Hunt, yes.
Kim.
Hartman, yes.
Tom.
Camden, yes.
Rick.
Johnson, yes.
Kelly Hersey.
Hersey, yes.
Garrett.
Garrett, yes.
Ben.
Heaney, yes.
Lisa.
Christie, yes.
Dan.
Rockmore, yes.
And Odell, yes. Thank you. And then I actually want to skip back up because I think we've skipped to the second motion. So there's one just before that. Would you be able to do that one too, John?
Sure, sorry.
Awesome.
Move to approve the donation with gratitude from the Emily Landecker Foundation in the amount of $10,000 for the weight room update.
Is there a second? Seconded by Ben. Another roll call vote. I'll start with John.
Hunt, yes.
Kim.
Hartman, yes.
Tom.
Camden, yes.
Kelly Hersey.
Hersey, yes.
Rick.
Johnson, yes.
Ben.
Heaney, yes.
Lisa.
Christie, yes.
Garrett.
Palm, yes.
Dan.
Rockmore, yes.
And Odell, yes. I didn't miss a board member, did I? Awesome. That was unanimous. Moving on then to public comment. So at this point in time, we would like to welcome a comment from the public for any item that isn't otherwise on the agenda this evening. I will note that we do have the fall sports plan coming up as item number 6. So if you have some things that you'd like to talk about related to that, the best time might be to actually wait until we get to that agenda item. But for anyone else that has anything of public comment, now would be the time for that. And Josh, can you assist in having folks promoted? We have Carol and Andy.
Hi, it's just Carol.
Okay.
So I'm just jumping onto this meeting. I was listening to your other meeting before. And, you know, part of me just wishes that we could just let down the shields and just talk to each other more as human beings than people who are, and I'm not saying you're doing this. I mean, honestly, I understand why people are defensive, but I wish that we could take a general deep breath among all of us and talk to one another as human beings instead of as people who are being attacked. So as a parent who has 2 kids, you know, one of is definitely going in school and one wants to do the whole VLAX thing. I'm comfortable. I mean, I'm comfortable with my son going in. I don't think that he's going to necessarily be at risk. I think he's going to follow protocol. And I'm comfortable with my daughter doing VLAX. I mean, how incredibly fortunate am I that she can do this homeschooling or whatever, and it's for free. But my question always just comes back to education. I think it's great if people can do chorus. I think it's great if people can do band. I mean, I think my son, the only reason he wants to go back is so he can do band, or one of the main reasons. And I think it's great if there's a way to do sports. I mean, that's fabulous. I mean, yes, there's a risk of Dartmouth, and yes, there's a risk for the teachers. I mean, I acknowledge those things. Those are true. And I hear those people's concerns. I also hear what the doctors are telling us. And I think those are true as well. I have absolutely no doubt that everyone is being sincere. But my biggest question is about education. So, you know, again, I don't know if this is true or not, but I remember at last quarter being really disappointed with the remote learning. And the reason I was really disappointed was because honestly, I felt like maybe the teachers weren't doing their best. But then, you know what I found out after talking to teachers was that they were told contact over content, only review. And I found that really disappointing because I don't remember ever getting an email about that from Mr. Bottoms or Dr. Bottoms, sorry, saying, hey, this last quarter, we're telling the teachers contact over content, only review. And had I known that, had that been my expectation, I would have been far less disappointed. So again, it just comes back to, can we just be real? Can we just be honest? I mean, Jay Bottoms, Dr. Bottoms just said he talked to a bunch of kids who missed their teachers. I get it. And I love that. And that's wonderful that they miss their teachers. And then Mr. Hunt said that, his kids really miss recess. Of course, I get that too. And I'm sure there's plenty of kids who miss their friends. But isn't the point of public education to be educated? And if so, where's the education? I kind of feel like, remember that Wendy's ad where it was like, where's the beef? Like, yes, they're going to be safe. Yes, they've got hand sanitizer. Yes, they've got masks. Yes, they're going to get their temperatures taken. Yes, they're going to be socially isolated. Yes, this, that, and the other thing. But where's the beef? Are they going to be educated? And if so, why can't we have standardized testing? Are we going to, at the end of the year again, ask for an exemption to standardized testing because who knows? I'm assuming it's because we cannot actually meet the same type of scores that we have in the past. Maybe I'm wrong. And if I am, I apologize for making that accusation. But on the other hand, really, like, can we just be real? If the plan is, let's get the kids into the school because they need to have friends, because we need childcare, and we're going to do the bare minimum education. If we could just be real about that, I don't think people would be freaking out so much.
Thank you very much, Carol. And I am remiss here. I have already done not as good a job as Kelly McConnell would have done. Might I ask for your name and the town that you're from? We're just muted, I think.
Sorry, my name is Carol Keefe. I'm a Hanover resident. I've lived here since 2009, and I have two children who are, one is enrolled for his junior year at the high school, and one will be homeschooled for her freshman year at the high school.
Yep. Thank you very much. And for future speakers, just let you know, the only thing that you're required to tell us is your name and the town that you're from. If you want to provide additional information, that's fine. But for purposes of the board meeting, those are the only things that we really need. And I also want to make sure, in order to fit as many people in this evening that would like to speak, we are going to see if we could limit the comments to 2 minutes. That being said, I don't know, Josh, I don't see a whole lot of other hands up at the moment. And I don't know, Jay, if you had anything that you wanted to provide in terms of feedback to the comment from Carol.
Fine.
Okay. Any other folks? And we'll just remind, if you do want to speak, if you can just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand so that we can see that. Looks like we have Jared.
Hello, my name is Jared and I'm from Norwich. In the town meeting hall, there was at least one person who had recommended a dissenting person be added to the physicians advisory group. Then at the last I've lost track of meetings. It was another school board meeting, I guess. A epidemiologist from Norwich called in, who's also a parent. I had emailed Dr. Badams asking that she be invited to the physicians advisory group. And to my knowledge, he said that he had recommended that, but I have not heard back of whether that's happening. It seems like she is a qualified person to be on that group and has a dissenting point of view. And I'm wondering if an update can be provided.
Thank you, Jared. Yeah, Jay, you want to respond?
Sure. The Physicians Advisory Group is a group of 11 physicians who also happen to have children in the school system, and they are managing themselves. I have made the recommendation to Dr. Chapman, who's heading that up, and they, I'm sure when they meet next, will decide whether to add any more physicians to that group. So that's in their hands. I will send a reminder tomorrow.
Anyone else wish to speak at this point? As a reminder, you can just raise your little Zoom hand and we can find you that way. All right, I'm not seeing any more at the moment. So we're going to move on into the agenda. And first item up is report of high school council. Do we have council rep with us this evening? Jamie or Jay or
Neil, I'm sorry. I
We
should
can
have.
review, agenda review, because I apologize. I had two things brought to my attention today.
And I have one as well.
Oh, all right. My apologies for moving ahead so fast. Let's do agenda review.
Jamie, go ahead. You're first.
Oh, yay. I would like to know if we could add under the business requiring discussion, a discussion about the teacher and nurse substitute rates. And secondly, I've had a couple of parents reach out through our little link on the website about the VLAX costs for Norwich high schoolers, and whether or not the Dresden School District during this pandemic time would consider covering that cost.
Okay. And Jay, you had some items?
Yeah, I just had one. We had a teacher who was in line to replace Maureen Doyle, who decided not to take the position. So our high school folks have done a nice job of interviewing and going back out with a new casting call, and they have a candidate for you to consider tonight. And I would ask that we be able to add the hiring of that teacher under both non-public and then coming back out of that to enter into public to hopefully approve that new teacher.
Okay. Do we have the supporting documentation for that this evening, Jay?
You will find it under executive and administrative content in non-public.
Okay.
Do you want me to add the 2 bullets to business requiring discussion now?
Let me just make sure, are there any board member opposed to these items being added to the agenda this evening? No, so I think you could go ahead and add those now, Jamie.
Thank you.
And then as a reminder for board members, once done, we'll need to do a refresh in the board docs in order to be able to see those items.
Mhm.
All right. So now I will move on to a report of council because I believe our council member is with us tonight. Although, do we need to promote?
Casey's in the attendees. Is that who?
Can we put Casey on the panel
Yeah.
for the meeting?
Yep. Got
Her hand is up.
Hi, can you hear me?
All right, we got you.
Okay, great. So as you can probably guess, council hasn't met since the last meeting we had, but we do have a retreat planned for this upcoming weekend to kind of talk about our goals for this upcoming year.
Perfect. Any board members have any questions for Casey this evening or council? All right. You might win the award for shortest report tonight. Thank you so much. All right. Moving on then to middle school principals report and Mr. Boyle.
I think I would be quicker at unmuting myself by now. So we have really in the last 2 weeks swung into gear, and we have a lot more people in the building. We've convened our RMS specific reopening task force, which is made up of 15 staff members that represent the full range of all the adults that we have in the building. And they're they've met about 4 times, and they're diligently addressing 2 parts of what we're going to need to reopen. Part logistical, which involves all of the safety stuff. We ordered a bunch of signs today and big decals of geese. The RMS are the goose. So we have a big goose with its arms spread, which are 6 feet apart. So that's what we're working for in our areas outside of our classrooms. So we've ordered all those signs. The other part is curricular, and we do have a number of people working with that about specifically what our curriculum is going to look like, what we're going to focus on, and most notably for parents too, how we're going to make sure that everybody is very familiar with all of the platforms that we use to make sure that if we have to do something remotely, everybody is very up to date with exactly what needs to go on. Last night, we had our first of what will probably be many parent Zoom meetings in an attempt to answer all the questions that are still out there. We had probably 130 or so parents asking questions about remote learning and everything else. And we do realize that that's going to be an important part of what we're doing. Today, we met with a number of 8th graders back on campus remotely outside, which was a lot of fun. It was probably, Jay will mention it, Jay was there. Thank you for coming, Jay. It was the highlight probably of the summer for most of us to see the students back in the building. And they're really excited and I think really committed to the idea that we're putting forward of the community is really the most important part at RMS. And we're trying to make a real push towards the idea that we all need to take care of each other. That's going to be the important message that we're sending forward. It actually meshes very well with the equity work that we want to continue this year. We started some of our equity work last year. Led by our SAGE group at school, and we want to expand on that from some of the recommendations made by the equity committee. But this idea that we really are a community and we need to take care of each other is something that we're going to stress. And in regards to sort of the educational part of it that was raised earlier by Carol, we definitely are pushing forward with the educational part, although we did basically all agree that at the middle school level, and especially with seeing the students today, they were very excited, but they were very nervous. So we're going to have to do a lot of social emotional work in the first week or the first couple of weeks, and we definitely understand that. Just being around large groups of people is new for a lot of people. Some of these students have been doing things where they're around lots of people, but some of them, a couple of them said, I haven't done much where I've been around other people. So we're going to have to give them a little time to understand that, so they get in a place where they can learn what they're going to do. And let's see. And the other thing that we did learn today on sort of a side note is that outdoor education is fantastic. I believe in it entirely. It's not so good right next to the Lime Road. It was very difficult to hear today when the trucks went by, and all of us forgot sunscreen. So we definitely added that to the list of things that we might ask parents to put in book bags when you send to school. We might need a hat and some sunscreen, but we're going to try to figure out a way to make it work. But we had a couple deliveries at Dartmouth Printing today that basically stopped all discussion in its tracks for a couple minutes. So staff comes back next week. We're really excited about that. We're starting tours for our new families to come in a very sort of small groups to come and see the building. We know that especially for 6th graders and some of our 7th graders from Marion Cross, the whole idea of going to a new building can be really daunting. And especially at this time when people really haven't been doing as much moving around as perhaps they had in the past. So we're setting those up, and we'll continue to do that, especially that week of September 1st through 4th, when we intend to have all of our students in small groups, in their cohort groups, to go through their schedule, to see the building, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where we are. We're starting small, but we're really excited to sort of be back to the actual implementation of plans here, rather than just wading through all the data, which we have been doing all summer.
Thanks, Tim. Any board members have any questions for Tim while we've got him here? All right, moving on. Jim, you're up. You just got to unmute yourself, though.
I'm slower than Tim. I apologize. The high school is also moving very quickly right now in the planning stages. Our task force is made up of 18 staff members. We're putting out surveys to staff. We're sharing documents with the staff, and they're providing feedback. The most recent discussion that we had today was our schedule, and there's going to be an email going out to parents tomorrow informing them of some of the scheduling opportunities that we're working on right now. So just to go through the calendar, new teachers are coming in this week. We got a plan for them. We're excited to see the new teachers coming in. And then next week, the teachers are coming in, and we have those workshops we're planning right now, and that's going to be dealing with curriculum and scheduling and protocols that are going to be put in place for the students with traffic flow. On the 31st, we're planning on having an all Zoom meeting with the whole school, with the students, letting them know what the protocols are going to be. The premise that we're going on is that education is going to be really important, letting the students know what the protocols are going to be and how things are going to flow within the school. And we all have to be on the same page with that as we move forward. And then on Tuesday, we're going to bring in the freshmen separately into the school. And then on Wednesday, we're going to bring the sophomores in separately. Thursday, the juniors in separately. And then Friday, the seniors are going to be coming in separately. During that time, we have a schedule worked out for them where they're going to be going into their advisory, a new program that we're going to be talking about in our Friday update to the parents. They're also going to get their books and their technology. They're going to have their photos taken, and any other paperwork that needs to be completed will be going with them at that time. And then on the 8th is the first day of classes. And so classes, what the classes are going to look like right now, as we try to mitigate the risk for students, when we look at the classes at the high school, 7 periods, basically 40 minutes each. Transitions are a big issue right now, and we want to minimize those transitions. So with the help of the coordinators and our task force, we sent out surveys to the staff, and we got a lot of data back on changing our schedule during this COVID time. So we're looking at blocking our periods into approximately 80-minute periods. So it'll be 2 days a week will be the first half of the schedule, the first half of a schedule, and the other 2 days will be the end of the schedule. We're working out the details if we want to go 1, 2, 4, or however it's going to work out. Right now, Martha Campbell and Andrea Johnstone, they're working really hard on the scheduling pieces with that, because there's a lot of pieces that have to fit into the puzzle that Dr. Badams was talking about. But we're confident that we're going to have a schedule. Lunch is a huge conversation that we're having right now. And there is going to be time for students to eat lunch. The data is clear on that we have to provide that. So we're looking into doing that. Restricting student movement throughout the building. We're working on those protocols also. We're also we updated our handbook in a draft form to include all kinds of COVID information of what students can expect. And then we're in the process of drafting a student contract or an MOU so they know what the expectations are when they come into the building. The lunch piece, like I said, we're working those details out right now. The initial thought is we're going to do lunch in our advisories. Our advisory programs are a small number of students with every staff member, limiting mass, I guess, gatherings, about 9 students to 10 students in a room. Again, all this is it's a work in progress. We're also looking at possibly putting them in the cafeteria in small groups if we dismiss those extended periods at certain times of the day. We've ordered dividers for the cafeteria, for the library, for the outside tables. So there's a lot of conversations going on with the logistical pieces right now. The list is long. You're going to hear a little bit about athletics in a few minutes, music and band and choir. We have the details worked out for that. They're working really hard and they're communicating with other instructors throughout the state on what the best protocols are for that. Our science people are talking about how they're going to conduct our labs in the science classes. We're ordering dividers for all those classes, how our resource rooms are going to be working. Substitutes, what we're going to do with substitutes or lack of if we don't have them, coming up with those protocols. So the in-person piece, a lot of moving parts. I'm confident we're going to have a really succinct plan in place. The thing I want to emphasize is that everything is subject to change. We're not going to know until we get the students into the building. After the first day of school, we're going to have a staff meeting, just a real follow-up of what's working, what's not working, and we'll continue to have those meetings. It's important that we get the input from the staff. And I'm sure that, we want input from the parents too, after the first week of school of what's working and what's not working. And we might have to change some things up. We're working on our remote learning plan right now. It looks like we have approximately 37 students to date that have pre-registered requesting remote learning. So we're working out the details of what that's going to look like with the staffing that we have available for that. As I mentioned in my update, it's going to be generic classes with the breadth of classes that are offered at Hanover High School. There is no possible way that we're going to be able to offer every class online or remotely and in person. So I'm working with the coordinators on that right now, and I'm confident that we'll have a program in place for those students also.
Thank you, Jim. Board members, any questions for Jim this evening? Dan.
Jim, thanks. I know it's a pretty big logistical struggle, but it sounds like you're working toward it. I do have a couple of questions about the learning distinctions. And I mean, we could very well, of course, be in a situation where there are students who start, parents have spoken to this, students who start in person and then decide to go to a remote venue. So I guess what you're saying is that if that happens, it's possible that the classes that they started with are no longer available in the remote situation. And so I'll just tee up a couple of things here. So that's one thing, maybe addressing what that transition could look like. That said, there might be students who get sick. And so instead of being out for a day like we're all used to, they could be out for a week due to, or 2 weeks due to quarantine. So does that mean that they're de facto, transition to the remote environment and perhaps taken out of the class that they're in? So another piece of that then I think is assessment. Assessment, binary assessment when people are remote, most students and parents don't have any problem with that. You made a good faith effort, you got credit, you didn't, you don't get credit. On the other hand, when you start to have actual gradations, A minus, and so on and so forth, it's complicated. We like to believe that, there's an honor principle in place and so on and so forth. But, if there's a time test, for example, these things require various kinds of technological handshakes, for lack of a better word, in order to make them go and for people to feel comfortable with them. So the assessment piece remotely is, I believe, somewhat non-trivial. And especially if it's mixed for some students, and you just need to sort it out up front, I guess is my point, and maybe you already have. And then I think the last thing, which I've raised a couple of times, and I'm not sure if we're there yet, is this question of quote unquote leveling, in the sense of, we do have honors classes. For example, we have honors language classes, and those students haven't spoken this almost all of them have not spoken whatever foreign language it was they were in for probably 6 months at least. So how are those distinctions being managed, if they are being managed in any way? And I'm sure the teachers are, and you are all on top of this, but that, there will probably have to be reviews in some of the classes that have a dependence relationship. And I'm thinking specifically about mathematics. So that will, of course, then necessitate some reconstruction of what would have been the usual curriculum, a little bit more picking and choosing, and then, how that aligns with the goals of those classes. So that's a lot. We could probably spend hours talking about that, and I don't mean to hijack this, but I do want to bring it to your attention, and you can pick and choose, and we could, and I'm sure that in subsequent communications, you'll be addressing this. So thank you.
No, thank you. And this is complicated. There is no doubt about it. And, it's, I'm not going to say it's all new to me. When I was talking to the staff the other day, I might be new to Hanover, but I'm not new to education in high schools. When we look at this process, students being sick and if they're in person and then leaving and going and being sick, we had that discussion in our task force meeting, what that's going to look like. And we're going to treat that as any other sick student, and we're going to work with that student to get that student caught up. We're asking that parents commit to the semester. We can't have an in and out type of a situation where, a student decides this isn't working for me in person and I want to go to remote, because the classes are not going to line up. I'm going to say, odds are the classes are not going to line up. We're still drilling down into it, but the generic course offerings are for the remote learning are not going to match those that are in class, the robust course offerings that we have in school. So we're going to have to look at that as we move forward. The assessment, I can tell you, I met with 3 council students. It was probably 2 weeks ago. They're concerned about all of that also, how we're going to get back into this schooling piece. Students have been out of school for 6 months. So as Tim was just saying, there's going to be relearning taking place. There's going to be a social emotional component to what we're doing. And we're going to have to, I said to the staff, I think one of the advantages that we have at the high school is that they're young adults and we have to respect their opinions. And if we're moving too fast, it's going to be up to us to listen to what the students are saying. It was loud and clear when the students from the council spoke to me a couple of weeks ago that, yeah, we have to talk about this and when we're going to start assessments and what these assessments might look like. So there's a lot of pieces that have to be put together. And I can't thank the council for the work that they're doing. I can't thank the teachers for their input. It's definitely, it's a huge undertaking, a lot of pieces, and I'm confident that we're going to be where we need to be. But when we look at the remote piece and the in-person piece, it's just to mesh them together. That's a really tough mesh right now because of the amount of students that are going to be in classes in person and at Hanover High School and those students that are going to be remote. There's a lot of details that are being worked out. So I don't know if I answered your questions. I'm agreeing with you. It's complicated. I'm agreeing. We have just as many questions as you do. And we're going to have to work this out as we go along. But I can tell you that the students that I speak to, they're excited that they're coming back just like everybody. And we're going to do the best we can. I think the staff is on board. I know the staff is on board, and they're, we all have our personal opinions in this. And at the end of the day, the decision's made. We're going to go back. Kids are coming back. Students are coming back, and we're going to do the best that we can to give them the best education that we can. They deserve it.
Thanks, Jim. Lisa, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just to, I'm sure you all have thought about this, but it's a question that I keep hearing, particular to the people who are choosing online, and the sort of generic nature of the classes that are going to be able to be offered online. And a question that I have, I obviously can't answer, and I keep referring them to just wait, but I've heard it over and over again, is could someone, how does the VLAX work with the Hanover High School offerings? And could someone do kind of a menu and take their math class through Hanover High, but their science class through VLAX? And I don't need an answer for that right now, but I just wanted to let you know that that is a question I've heard repeatedly. Thank you.
Jay.
So thanks, Neil. And I guess to Lisa's point, to some of the issues that Dan has brought up, and to Carol, who spoke earlier during public comment. Last year, when our teachers had to shift in 4 days from their traditional instruction that they'd been doing the whole year prior and for as many years as they had taught before that, that was a quick pivot. And it was an emergency response to a pandemic. And my messaging at that time was that we're hoping to keep kids engaged, keep kids learning, but that it was not going to be the same. And anyone who expects everything to be the same when we're trying to conduct public education during a global pandemic, with all of the additional measures we have to take to keep our kids and our staff safe, we really need to take a deep breath and think about it. What's going to be cool this time around is that we have had more time, and we have had the experience that we all shared in the spring to do better. For those who are coming to school in person, there's going to be a little bit of time up front where we need to get used to new routines. It's not easy wearing a mask. I had a hard time today meeting with the kids over at RMS. It was pretty hot out and I had a pretty thick mask, and it was hard for me to see through my fogged glasses and to breathe that hot air. We're going to have some learning to do just about how to do school, but that's not going to take that long. People are worried about what the curriculum is going to look like. The curriculum is going to look like what it always has. We have outstanding science teachers, for example. Our math courses are great. Our English program is wonderful at the high school. Those things aren't going to change. We're not throwing out our curriculum and substituting it with some basic, proficiency-based curriculum. We're keeping in place those things that make our program so great. It is going to be hard for us to replicate that same type of instruction and content in a remote platform when we might not have staff able to offer every different course that we typically offer in our catalog. So when we use terms like generic, I want us to be careful. Our teachers are going to do a great job, like they always do. And to say it's generic, I don't think that's a really good characterization. We're going to not be able to offer maybe the variety that we normally do in the remote setting, but we're going to make sure we're providing a high quality education. And what we're going to also be able to do, and again, to Lisa's question about VLAX, there's some issues with VLAX as far as their capacity, but my understanding is that some of the higher level courses and some of the more specialized course offerings that VLAX has, they will be available to our families. And so those folks that are choosing remote, who are seeking something different, will have those sorts of options. We're even looking at the Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative as another possible place for us to get some coursework. And then we as a board have passed policies around alternative credit options that might make it possible for us to do things like college courses, like dual enrollment courses. It's just going to be us working together, trying to do the best we can to, again, take care of each other on the health front, but also to make sure that we're helping to provide the best possible education we can, but also for those students who can't be with us in person. And so that's going to mean some customization. And it's going to be working closely with our administration, our counselors, and our teachers to be able to provide for those needs that students have. But we all have to acknowledge that this is not normal. Just because we're coming back in person doesn't mean that everything's going to be the way it was pre-COVID. So sorry to go long on that, but that's something that I think we just need to remember.
Thank you, Jay. Any other board members have any other questions for Jim or high school this evening? All right. Seeing none, I am noting that we do have one hand up in the attendees. I will allow it this time, although I do, Carol, you've had one opportunity to speak already, so I hope you can make it brief this time around.
Thank you very much. I am just trying to understand why it is that we were told that, yes, it will be different, and yes, contact is important, but we were not told specifically contact over curriculum and it will be review. All I'm trying to say, really, I'm not even trying to be like, why didn't you do that? What I'm trying to point out is that direct, honest, transparent communication is what will create community and kindness. Innuendo and sleight of word and, well, this is what I meant, will not create that. What that will create is distrust. So please, can we please work together? Can we please be direct with one another? That's what I'm asking for. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that feedback. Any other questions from any board members?
Neil, can I respond, or is this not the place for that?
If we can keep it brief, Tim, I mean, I do. So maybe just a point here, right? So I understand the special times that we all find ourselves in. These are board meetings. These are public meetings. They're not meetings of the public. We do want to hear from our public. We do provide opportunity for that. I just want to be very careful because we do need to get through the business of the board. So I guess that being said, Tim, if you want to.
That's okay. I'll pass. I can communicate with Carol in another way.
Okay. And certainly it's not my intention to scold or anything like that. But we do have work that we need to get through with the board as we get through this evening and as we approach the reopening of school. So I certainly, we appreciate all of the comments from everyone. We do hear them, we do listen to them, we do read them, but I do want to make sure that we're able to get through our agenda this evening. If there are no other questions from board members for the high school, then I do want to move on to the next item of the agenda, which is the fall sports plan. And I'm not sure, is it Megan, is it Jim, is it who will be the one? Jim.
I'm just going to start and I'm going to pitch it over to Megan. I can't thank her enough for all the work that she's doing on this report. She put a lot of time into it, and I think it's a comprehensive report that's really, really insightful. So I want to thank her upfront for all the work. And without further ado, Megan, by all means.
And Jim, before we go to Megan, just a point of order. It looks to me like the plan is not showing up in public comment in board docs. Was there a reason for that? Do we know?
I don't know. I just forwarded it. I can find that out though.
Jamie, did you have a thought?
I can post it in open public, and I would also ask at this point for people to refresh their board docs because we made all the agenda changes.
Okay. My apologies to the public. We are going to get that document moved into the public content piece so that you all can see that.
I can do it.
What you might need to do is refresh board docs so it does show up. We'll get that moved right now. My apologies. With that, though, if you want to use that as a segue, Jim, go right ahead.
Oh, so Megan, if you're on, you can start speaking.
Okay, thanks. Yes. I believe the plan has gone to the board and hopefully you have all had a chance to review it. I know the public did not. But the proposal we've put together, I've considered the risk and the challenges, as well as the benefits to our student athletes. I think that given where we are currently with the low COVID numbers and with the return to school, the proposal is to start fall sports. The NHIA has moved back the start date to September 8th, which coincides with our first day of school. And I think that the guidelines that we have put in place, as well as the state guidelines, NHIA guidelines, we can do this as safely as possible. I think that given that the importance of it to many of our students, we have 78% of our students at Hanover High that participate in at least one sport. This is an important part of their high school experience. And I think that given where we are with our numbers, given that we will adjust our schedules to only local regional travel, that will depend on sport. Some it's a little bit easier to do than others. And that's something, which is why we wanted it to go to the board and have a decision sooner rather than later, so we can start building those schedules. We have a number of fall sports and obviously a number of teams within those sports. We have 4 boys soccer teams, 3 girls soccer teams. So just scheduling for them is, a long process. So, many of our teams have been doing conditioning this summer, following the guidelines that we put in place for them. That has gone really well. And, I've heard again and again from parents and students and our coaches how important that connection has been for those students that are participating. I'm happy to take questions on the document and fall sports. It's a almost daily discussion with other ADs in the state in terms of these discussions and what is happening at their schools and their districts, and how decisions are being made and how we can alter sports so that they will be safer given this time.
Thanks, Megan. Why don't I open up, any board members have any questions? No questions at this point. Oh, sorry, Tom.
Just a quick one to start off, Megan. I may have missed it in the report, but there's reference to, if some of the scheduling changes and there's more Vermont teams played, what is the guidance you're getting from the Vermont Principals Association on this?
So Vermont has, I think, voted last week on a statewide plan. They are playing all sports except for football, and football is moving to 7v7 flag football is the proposal. So they will not be offering tackle football. In terms of volleyball, they plan to play outside. All other sports are operating normally at this point. We do normally schedule games with Vermont teams, and I have been in touch with those athletic directors to schedule in sports where they are playing with the local schools, the Upper Valley schools. So that's something that we would do, and we normally do in lots of our sub-varsity teams, but that's something that we would do with our varsity teams as well. We also have field hockey plays some Vermont schools pretty regularly.
John?
I just wanted to comment on, from the athletics advisory committee side of things, that we've had our eyes on this through Megan, but I would say that the amount of help we gave her was limited. And what I want to point out is the amazing amount of work she's done on this, from the start of the summer when she put together the out of season workout plan, and how much that covered and how detailed it was impressive. And then to follow it up with a plan like this that values the safety of everyone involved, but it also recognizes the importance of getting kids back out playing together and building lifelong connections. I think is just unbelievable, and I want to congratulate Megan for that. I've been involved with sports for a very long time at all levels coaching, and I can say that I've rarely seen an athletic director or an athletic administration pull together this level of detail in this short amount of time. So I just want to say congratulations and thank you, Megan.
Thanks, John. Rick?
Yeah, so I'm very impressed with the amount of detail that's gone in here, and that we are putting some pretty stringent requirements on our teams, players, coaches, and parents. Question I have is, so, and I'll give you an example. So it says parents will be required to wear masks while spectating. But if we attend an away game, what is the position of Hanover athletics with regard to a school that does not seem to be as stringent? Are we going to try to coordinate across all the schools we're going to play to see if we all can get on the same sheet of music, or are we willing to forfeit a game because our players and coaches are not in a safe position?
I guess, do you mean in terms of spectators or teams?
Yeah, I was just using the spectators as an example, but I'm looking at, there's a lot of requirements for our players and our coaches when they're in the sidelines. And, if we go play a team that doesn't seem to have as much regulation with how they're treating the COVID, are we willing, or are we willing to walk away from the game? And B, are we attempting to coordinate across all the different schools that we may be playing to see if we can all get on the same kind of rules and regulations?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that most of the athletic directors are on board in terms of the type of requirements that we have in our plan. But that said, I think that probably knowing, once we develop the schedules, knowing what those specific plans are will be helpful. I mean, I think there's talk of not allowing fans at all at some schools. There's talk of allowing only one parent to come to games. So, there's all of these different discussions going on. I mean, I think the good part of what the NHIA has done is that there will not be any forfeits or penalties for not playing games or changing schedules or deciding we're not going to that area because they've had an outbreak or they have a case or whatever the case may be. We're going to be able to decide that on a case-by-case basis up until, game time. So we can make those decisions. And I think certainly, we want to keep our students as safe as possible. And if other schools are not following the protocols, then it will be our job to, pull those games from the schedule.
And just a follow up, has NHIA discussed the officials' ability to stop a match because they're seeing unsafe practices or whatever?
I have not heard that discussed. It would probably be officials associations. And I'm sure that's something, I mean, right now, every school is sort of making their plans for fall sports. And I think everyone's, I know, which is why, it was a draft plan. I'm sure there are details that, I have not addressed in it that will come up, such as that we'll need to figure out. I mean, I think having, some sort of safety monitor or COVID, coordinator at our home games, probably more than one, will be important to make sure that we are all following the guidelines. It's a learning process. I mean, just watching the summer workouts, it's a challenge. You you know, I put in the plan, you have to space water bottles 6 feet apart, because when they come off the field, they don't consciously think, oh, I need to be 6 feet apart from that you know, all of those things that, you know, huddles and high fives and fist bumps and all the things that normally happen with sports, it's going to be very different. So, you know, that's something I put in the plan. There is a COVID course that is offered online that all of our coaches will take to make sure that, you know, they're up on the guidelines and how to do this. But it's, I mean, like school, it's going to be a challenge and it's going to be different.
Thank you. Any other board members with any other questions? Oh, sorry, Kim, my screen is split between, because we got so many participants that I didn't see you waving. Go ahead.
Thanks. So it's maybe a question to Jamie. Just what has been offered in this plan, was that incorporated in the last budget that the last Dresden Budget Committee saw?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was incorporated, Kim, with full sports. We had reversed both positions.
Any other board member questions? I have one between maybe Megan and Jay. So I know Megan had referenced maybe a couple of times in the presentation this idea that the proposal perhaps be approved by the board. And I guess as I'm looking at it, I'm not entirely certain, you know, that there's a role for the board to play here in approval, but I wanted, you know, Jay, if you wanted to, you know, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I don't know that we necessarily need board approval for it. This is I think in the sort of administrative and procedural realm. I guess I would defer to Megan on this. I mean, Megan, would you feel better with sort of the board thumbs up to proceed forward with your recommendation?
If everyone wants to approve it, yes, I guess I would. I mean, I think, you know, I did have the Dresden Athletic Committee review the plan before it was sent out to the board. You know, procedurally, we weren't sure how it was going to work. I think many school districts are discussing this and boards are voting on it to go forward. Obviously, that's not something normally we would do, as we would just continue to offer the sports that we offer and wouldn't need that. But I think during this time, maybe that's something that it would be helpful to have board approval. So it was discussed and approved, and people are on the same page with what we're trying to do.
That sounds great. I think that Neil, to your question, I think if the board is willing to propose a motion, and we're all in this decision together, and that we're either affirming it or sending us back to the drawing board.
Yeah, so I think, so the issue that I would have beyond not necessarily being convinced that this is an item that needs board approval, in the sense that as Jamie had pointed out from Kim's question, the budgetary aspect of this has already been considered. These are sports that would normally run anyway without any board approval that was necessary. I see some minor adjustment to the scheduling and maybe how the sports would actually occur. But beyond that, if we were looking for a vote of the board, it would be my recommendation for the sake of transparency here, that this was not noticed this evening for board approval. It was noticed for discussion. And so to make sure that the community knows what's going on at the board level, if you're looking for approval, I would recommend that we schedule another board meeting if we want to entertain approval of this.
That sounds fair. And Neil?
Yep.
I think I also want to make sure that everybody's very clear that we're also committing ourselves to the performing arts. We're looking at ways to adapt how we do things like our drama programs and our musical programs. And these are all really important aspects of our children's education. And I don't want people to get the impression that we're solely focused on restoring sports and not paying attention carefully to those other things too.
Thanks, Jay. Ben.
Thank you. I'm somewhat more ambivalent than others have said about this, but the only question I have tonight is, I just finished reading through the document and I don't see anything on there about what happens to students or student athletes who repeatedly break the rules intentionally or not. Like, you have that one athlete who just keeps, coughing or keeps putting his water bottle next to other people, keeps, slapping hands and, clapping shoulders and all that kind of stuff. Is there a process where, apart from showing symptoms, can athletes be removed for not adhering to the rules repeatedly or deliberately, or something similar to that? I don't see that on the document. Thank you.
I guess a question for them, for Megan or for Jay. I mean, would that scenario be any different than if that same behavior was just going on during the normal school day?
I would say, yeah, we're asking kids to sign a contract, essentially agreeing that they're going to be following the safety protocols, and we're going to be making sure that families understand that. So we again, there's a lot of culture work we have to do. The first week or so of school, there'll be a lot of going through routines and impressing upon everyone that for this to be successful, for us to be able to actually have in-person schooling, it means changes to how we've done things, and it means a total focus on being a community and taking care of each other.
Thanks. John.
And I would just add to Jay's point that in order for, this is another way between athletics and after school activities of all kinds to continue to build that community respect. You've got leaders that are with a whole host of different kids, teaching those kids every day on how to model good behavior. And that's what, speaking from the coach piece, that's what coaches do. You teach your kids how to do it the right way. And if that's what as a community, we're trying to model, this is another adult in a situation that has the opportunity to affect those kids and how they're acting in the community and in life.
Thanks. Rick?
I just wanted to kind of clarify Jay's comment, because I don't think I heard it before about this contract. So our daughter plays fall sports, and we received a 3 or 4 page contract that the parents and the player have to read through. The player signs it, the parents sign it, and it's very similar to the previous seasons when you get the sportsman or conduct agreement that you agree both as a parent and as a player to comply with regulations. So I think Ben's concern will be addressed. If they're in violation of this agreement, we already have a mechanism for the coach or for Megan to remove a player or bench a player until they are back in compliance with the agreement.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, I think that the code of conduct, I think, is what you're referring to, that all families, athletes, and parents sign. The power of playing time and being on a team is pretty powerful for these students. And so I think that coaches do a great job of making sure that students are following the rules. And I think that this will also be a great opportunity for our coaches and captains to show the rest of the school that, it's really important that they follow the protocols. And if they aren't following the protocols, both on the field, in school, in town, everywhere, they're, as we talk about a lot, they're representing Hanover High School with what they're doing. And so it's really important that, as members of these teams, that they're following these guidelines. And I think that this will just be another, push to be able to do that with, we have about 300 fall athletes. So we're close to half the school of participating in one form or another.
Thanks. Casey?
I was just reading through the part of the document on physical distancing where it talks a lot about kind of how we have to avoid like gathering or congregating before or after practices or games. And I was just wondering because as I like play sports, I play soccer in the fall and then I ski race in the winter. And a lot of times before, like with practice schedules, well, we might have later practices, and normally we would kind of people won't be able to get home and back like before their practice will start. So they'll have 2 or 3 hours where they have to kind of wait around. And so I was wondering kind of where those people should go if they can't go back to their house. If you don't really want them in the school gathering, then kind of, and you don't really want them going to town, just how like where would, especially the underclassmen students that might not be able to drive themselves anywhere.
That is a great question, Casey. I think we're going to have to figure that out depending on, practice schedules. But I know, sharing the turf, all teams don't practice directly after school. So that's something we're going to have to figure out. I mean, I think, trying to not congregate inside the school is important because of cleaning protocols and everything else. So figuring out if there's a spot outside that people can socially distance and do homework and that kind of stuff. I think that's something that we're going to have to navigate as a school.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, we may be able to, because of how the cleaning schedules will go, we may be able to utilize the library space, after school up until that 6 or 7 o'clock hour, because we will have a lot of Lexan dividers and all installed on all the tables in there. So that'll accommodate quite a few kids in an appropriate manner.
Thank you. Board, I will come back to you, but I do want to make sure that we get to the public this evening for the sports plan as well too. So Josh, if you wouldn't mind a little assistance, looks like I've got Eric Piccone with his hand raised. And folks, if you, when you begin speaking, just let us know your name and what town you're from, please.
Eric Piccone from Norwich, cross-country running coach. My question is, are remote students or homeschooled students eligible to participate since they're not likely to have a daily health screening by the school? And secondly, is there an attestation form for coaches that they have to sign because they were left outside of the same protections provided to teachers for the 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. window? Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Is that something we want to address this evening, or is it best that we catalog these questions and then make sure that we get them all answered? Jay?
I defer to Jamie.
Okay.
I would ask Eric to repeat the second question. I'm not sure I understand the 8 to 3 window. We reopened the schools for teachers. We reopened their FOBs. I wouldn't say opened, but reactivated the FOBs. So if there's a group of coaches that are missing in that activation, then I think it needs to be a discussion with the athletic director and facilities, because I don't know that it was done on purpose, other than we're still trying to control a little bit of what's going on within the gym and the athletic trainer's room, and the weight room right now. Protocols, I would say all employees, coaches are paid employees of the district. I sent an all schools protocol attestation update last night, which I'm going to send another one in the morning because there was a couple things that need to be updated. It's a living, breathing document. So if the coaches were missed on that list, I'm sorry, it wasn't intentional, and I'll make sure the next one I send, they get put on. So maybe clarification, Eric, on that 8 to 3, or is that what the question was?
Am I still unmuted here? Okay. So, yeah, so it was just the one that I read from the teacher perspective had an 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. window for essentially coverage of the attestation. The coaches would operate outside of that 3 p.m. window.
So If it read that way, I'm sorry, it wasn't meant to. It was, the attestation was because until you are under your contracted days and hours, that was what we decided to open the schools up for. Effective next Tuesday, which I think is when Hanover, Dresden come back, the hours will be expanded. And again, we're still working through all of these plan details, but I believe that the thought is that the hours would be expanded for the teachers once they're actually under contracted days, from opening in the morning, which is usually what, around 6:30 or 7, until at least 6 p.m. at night. And then we would make special arrangements for those folks who would be doing, you know, specials or sports or whatever that didn't fit within those time frames. It's just so that our custodial and cleaning staff know exactly where people are in the building, so that we know the areas that will have to be sure are cleaned before the next morning's time frames. It's hard to be sure that we can mitigate risk if we don't know where people are going or have been.
Got it. Thanks.
So I think for that particular part of the question, I think we just want to make sure that folks work on the details of that. Jay, I saw your hand pop up, but I just want to make sure that we also address the other piece. There was a question about, will the students who are doing remote learning be eligible for playing sports, and also homeschooling? The homeschooling, I believe, is yes. I mean, that's always been the case, right? Or not?
It's a legal requirement, and my initial read of how this will work if people are in remote learning is that we're not going to be able to discriminate based on their choice of remote learning about their participation in sports. But we are going to have to, again, just like we're going to have to make sure that our attestation and our health screenings apply uniformly to everybody involved in the situation. We'll have to do the same thing for those students.
Thanks, Jay. Megan?
Yeah, and I think we, you know, as was in the document, we had a daily symptom tracker that we will be doing before practices as well. So there was still some discussion whether we needed to include a second temperature check if they came in the morning. So that may be something that we do for everyone, or maybe just for those that haven't had it that day. So we're still discussing that, and I've had discussions with Dr. Chapman about that. So I'm working with him on those sort of specific protocols and how to work those.
Thanks. I am now noticing that Josh gave me the ability to set allow to talk. So I think I'm gonna go to Melissa. Gosh, I hope I did that right. Melissa, you should be all set if you just unmute.
Sorry, thank you for calling on me. It sounds to me like you just said that we can't discriminate against people who are doing remote learning who want to participate in athletics. And yet we can discriminate against people who choose remote learning who want to do honors courses or anything outside of the basic math, science, social science, and English courses. And I'm very frustrated by this. We would prefer to have an option to keep our daughter safe at home and yet still have a reasonable range of courses to take in the remote option. Thanks.
Yeah, Melissa, can you give us your name and town, please?
Melissa Herman, Hanover.
Thank you. Jay?
So Melissa, just to reiterate what I said earlier, we're going to need to work with our individual families to put together the best program we can. And it may mean that we can't accommodate an honors request in a specific course with the staff we have available, but that we can find other ways through whether it's a VLAX course or some other way to provide that sort of higher level option. And that's what I said earlier. So we need to work with our families individually to customize that remote learning experience.
And I'm talking on mute. Any other members of the public have anything, any comments or questions related to the athletic plan? Can use a little raise hand feature. That way we can tell. Any board members, any further questions on the plan? Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
I guess following up a little bit on the comment that Melissa from the public just made, it is, we haven't yet decided as a board if we feel we need to vote on this athletic plan, but I am really confused when I hear the comment. I understand why I think what Jay said is true, but if that's true, I absolutely don't understand how we can allow students who have chosen remote to play athletics and not participate in other functions that are in the school, the physical school buildings. If that was a safety precaution, why can we not? Maybe the reverse is, why can we not, or should we not put the same safety precautions on the athletics? And if we can't, then we might want to consider whether we offer athletics at all. I know that goes wildly against the sentiment of the town, but if we're following up on what Jay just said, we can't do, then I would have to suggest we can't offer athletics. But that's my 2 cents worth.
Jay?
Well, we're not excluding those families who choose remote learning. They're choosing remote learning. So we're not denying them the ability to come into the building. We're welcoming them into the building. And so to then also say that they can't participate in sports would be denying them that choice. It's my assumption is that those families that are choosing remote learning are doing so because they have some concern. So they're taking on the risk. We're not like endangering anyone unnecessarily by allowing them access to that. I just think, and I'll look into this, Kelly, in greater detail with our attorneys. We have a number of different things we're looking into. But I'm just thinking that based on homeschooling law, if we say, okay, you picked remote learning, therefore you can't participate in anything else, we're running the real serious risk of a discrimination suit.
Can I respond to that, Neil?
Sure.
I'm all that I'm saying is, and I'm putting on my hat. I imagine if I were a parent of an athlete who has chosen in school, therefore has in-school cohorts, and therefore has, I don't know how that's going to dovetail with the sports program, but all of a sudden, these remote learners who have not gone through the protocols that the in-school students are being requested to go through are allowed to mix in whatever format with the athletes who have gone through it. That's the side I'm concerned about.
I guess I can just like reiterate that those athletes will have to go through some sort of protocol, as we discussed a little bit earlier. We're still going to have to do temperature checks and attestations and health checks. So I think those people would be required to do that, Kelly.
Kim.
Thanks. Just to follow up with what Jay said, we actually looked at this last year, I believe, last August or so. I'm just thinking with my old policy committee hat on with the homeschooling law. So I'm familiar with some of that verbiage. At the time, it was about homeschooling, about requiring access and whatnot. So if anybody is particularly interested and want to look back in old school board meeting minutes, I think it was around July, August timeframe, we approved some of that language. And I think Jay will follow up with our specific needs. But just to clarify, if that's ringing any bells, that was what was ringing in my head when Jay was talking.
I see we have a couple more folks on the public side of things. Let me go to Ben. If you just give us your name and the town you're from first, please.
Hi, I'm Ben Wagner. I'm a captain of the HHS football team. I'm here with
a few of my teammates, but don't worry, we're 6 feet apart.
I would just like to say that as a football player for Hanover, we have had to make some changes, safety precautions that Megan has gave us that has worked well during our team practices. It's going great. We're socially distancing. We're having a good time. We're ready to play some ball, and like we want to be healthy playing ball too, but having a season would be great. Very meaningful for us. We put in the work, and it doesn't get any better than high school sports. And those lights turn on Friday nights. I think we all really want that feeling this year. So yeah, that's what I really wanted to say.
I also want to speak to the commitment our team has showed to taking these social distancing and other precautions seriously. I think we've been lucky to grow up in a sport based on discipline. Football at its core is a game of discipline, rule following, spacing. I think we're incredibly prepared to take on this new challenge as a team and work with our coaches, work with other teams. I think my voice is trembling as I talk about this, because when I think of the season we had last year, the months, the years, some of our guys have gone through just to get this one final chance to maybe hop on that turf and play, whether it's in front of fans or not, whether we go 0-9 again or even get a chance to win a game. I think it would just be so meaningful to have another stab at it. And I guess I really ask you guys to please do your best not to take this away from us. I think we're so appreciative of Ms. Sobel for how hard she's working, but we want this so bad.
I also want to say that at our last practice, we used helmets that had the protectors on them. We had plastic over bottom of our face mask. We had face masks going up, and me, Seamus, Hank Trimble, and Ben Wagner all tested them, and I don't think that we are scared to wear that. If that's what it has to be for us to get out on the field and play, then that's what it's going to have to be, and we'll deal with it. So I feel like that's a great way to keep us safe. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ben and group. Do not go 0-9. All right. Let's just
we'll
make
do our
this,
best.
All right. That's all we ask for. Thank you very much. Let me go now to Carol again. Carol, you are.
Sorry, guys. It's Carol Keefe. I am a mother in Hanover. I'm just wondering, so what if I have a homeschooled child, can that child attend sports?
Yes.
Hanover High
Yeah,
School?
that has always been the case, Carol.
Okay. If I have a homeschooled child, can my child attend band practice?
I believe the answer is again yes. I'm looking to Jay or principals just to confirm. But I think the answer has always been yes.
Yeah, Neil, my understanding is that that homeschooled students have access to co-curricular activities and extracurricular activities like any regularly attending student.
By state statute.
By state statute.
It's my understanding that the state made an exemption to that and that the district was going to take advantage of that exemption. Is that not true?
We're not seeking to deny anyone access to those activities.
Okay, so right now, are you willing to make a commitment that if I have a homeschooled child, that child is able to take sports and band? Is that a commitment you're willing to make for the rest of the semester?
Jay, I just want to make sure you're separating out co-curricular and band as a curricular activity, and then also making the distinction between homeschool and choosing remote school and being able to choose an activity. Just want to make sure all of those distinctions are really clear.
Sure.
Yeah. Might I suggest, Carol, that you reach out directly to either Jay or the principal at the building for the student that you've got
I think that's an excellent.
Issues.
I actually think that's an excellent suggestion, and I have done that multiple times, and I have not gotten an answer yet, which is why I'm putting you on the spot right now to ask you.
Oh, you've reached out to me for that answer?
I have reached out to the principal.
Okay, why don't we do this? Jay, would you mind following directly up with Carol?
Yeah, I already
to-
offered Carol some time
Yep.
tomorrow, and we'll get together and figure it out.
Okay.
All right, that sounds awesome. I'm actually not alone. There's many people who are working with me and who are looking to me to give them the answer. And that would be wonderful if maybe a group of us could meet with you and you could tell us all at the same time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Megan.
Yeah, Carol, I just wanted to say in terms of homeschool students are allowed to participate. There is a form that we have through the NHIA that has to be filled out to just certify the homeschool, but we do have homeschool students participate in athletics, and they are more than welcome to do so in all of our sports.
All right. Any other members of the public? I would say Ben and Carol, if you guys don't have anything else, if you just lower your hand, that way I know. Back to board. Kelly, Hersey, do you have your hand is still up? Is it just up from before? Okay. Awesome. Any other questions from members of the public? Board, I am looking just for help in crafting the agenda for the follow-up meeting from this one. You know, are board members looking for an ability, feel it necessary to approve the athletic plan? Anyone on the yes bandwagon on this one? Kelly Hersey, yes. Ben, yes. Anyone else?
Just clarifying that's yes that we need to approve it, not yes that we would approve it.
Correct. Yeah, that you feel that it's necessary for the board to approve the athletic goals. Is that a yes from Lisa then? Or
No, it's not.
just an understanding of the question?
I just wanted to make sure I understood what the yes was. Thank you.
Okay. Kelly, you look confused. And
I want to, can I wasn't sure if what you answered to Lisa was actually what I heard that she was asking. Are you asking us, do we approve taking the question up as a board at a future meeting? Or are you asking us if we are approving this now?
oh no, not the latter. I am not asking you if you are approving the plan now.
So you are saying, should we approve it at a later meeting?
I am asking, actually, the specific question I'm asking is, do you actually think that this falls under the board's purview of something that we really ought to be acting on?
And that's what I understood.
Okay. And you still believe the answer to that question is yes?
I do. In this case, during COVID, I do.
Okay.
Make that clear.
All right. John?
I just want to go back and ask if Megan and Jay feel that they want the support from the board on this. I think, you know, again, if Megan is asking for the support, then I don't see any reason why we shouldn't take it up as a board. But if she doesn't feel she needs it and can move forward, then I would support trusting her leadership in athletics.
Go ahead.
I certainly love the support, but my concern is one of timing. Sports start September 8th. We still have schedules to plan and lots and lots to do. So I believe the next board meeting is not until after that date, maybe mid to late September. So that's more my concern from a logistic point, that, you know, the time frame doesn't work. I think that yeah, I guess that's my main issue. I mean, I would like support of the board. I'm not sure if it's necessary to officially approve the plan or logistically how we need to move forward.
Yep. And I would say, to be clear, I don't think that what I'm seeing tonight is non-support for the plan. I didn't hear any board members raise severe reservations about what was in that document. But with the board's concurrence, because I'm looking, Kelly is not with us at the moment. I would like a chance to confer with her after this meeting, and as she is the chair of Dresden, see how she would desire to proceed with this one. Okay. All right. Understanding the timelines that you're under, Megan. All right. With that, I do want to move on. And we also had under business requiring discussion night, Jamie wanted to bring up a discussion of substitute wage rates. And for board members, if you do refresh the board docs, there should be some additional material in there for you to review. And with that, hand it over to Jamie.
Yeah, let me pull my board docs back up. Okay. I was doing a little quick math there. So the good news is we've had more substitutes sign up, and Bridget Peters has been bringing those folks on board. Some of them were subs in the past and kind of fell away from us, but they've shown interest in coming back. So a couple of them asked or pointed out that with some of the changes in the support staff rates that have occurred, you know, through different union agreements, that it's more lucrative for a sub to fill in for an administrative assistant or clerical worker than it is to fill in for a teacher. So, and I've attached an overview that Bridget put together in an email for me today. I asked her, she brought this to my attention, and I asked her to send it to me in an email so I didn't get it wrong. So the Hanover Dresden Ed Assistant minimum rate is at $15.69 an hour. And when you do that out by 7.5 hours, as you can see, it's more than $90 a day. And substitutes are paid approximately $90 a day for a 7.5 hour day. I think it's important that we have that discussion tonight, especially seeing as the circumstances of what we may be moving into during the pandemic. I did run some earlier numbers for the Dresden board about what the potential costs would be depending on how many folks we might have to cover substitute wise, if we also had to cover FMLA, FFCHRA, and or ADA outages. The difference so when you look at the dollar amount, my suggestion would be to move this wage for substitute teachers to $125. The difference between $100 a day which is where I projected that, which is actually higher than 90, is approximately $30,000. So that's where we're at. I said, you know, we would have the discussion. The nurses also brought up the potential discussion about upping the nurses per diem rate to a higher level because of everybody surrounding us, which is obviously the hospitals, right? Who can never seemingly get enough help. And granted, you know, working at a hospital and working at a school is probably a little bit different. I don't know if it's better or worse. I can't speak to that. I'm not a nurse. I think they're amazing people. They have very hard jobs. So they had asked about that as well. They had sent Jay and I an email a little while back. We had been potentially discussing hiring an additional FTE nurse to float. That's also a potential, you know, to help cover anything that might happen. So that's why we hadn't brought it to you yet. But I thought, seeing as we're going to discuss about the teacher sub rate, I might as well discuss that one at the same time. I don't know that we require a board vote, although it would be a change in budget numbers. And so at the last time we changed the sub rate, we did have a board vote on that. So that's where we are. I think there have been some additional changes just recently where there are some savings, some more savings. within the actual budgeted dollar amounts for staffers. In fact, which would almost cover that difference at this point that I know. So anything I can tell you or answer or?
Yeah, let me go to Rick.
Yeah, when we went through this a couple of years ago, we also compared the other districts surrounding us. Do we have a sense of where we are now with Leb and Mascoma and the other ones?
I did ask Bridget that question. I don't have the exact numbers, Rick, but she did say that none of them had moved up that she knew of recently. That doesn't mean they won't, today, tomorrow, next week, right? But we were all right in line with each other the last time that we checked. A couple of them, depending on the circumstance, if it was a long-term assignment, some of them were a little higher than us at like $15 an hour because they were paying on an hourly rate instead of a daily rate. But that was for folks who are making, like a 20-day or longer commitment in a row. So.
Thanks. Let me go with Tom.
Thanks. Just a couple quick questions, Jamie. And I'm sorry, you may have addressed this, but the differential between the $300 proposed for the nurses with what it is currently, and just to clarify for myself, the $30,000 difference you referenced I think by going up to $125 with the subs, that's just for the upcoming year based on an understanding that there would likely be a need for more subs, or is that something you would see as an annual increase beyond this year as well?
No, that would be based on what the projection is right now of some of the outages, depending on some of the circumstances of when we make determinations on who fits the federal guidelines. The numbers that we have projected and discussed, I think we discussed them a little bit at the SAU meeting last week, but they're also posted under the Dresden Budget Committee meetings that are on the board docs. So when we discussed that, we ran numbers based on, you just moved, based on the survey that we had at that point in time on the high side of the folks that we thought would probably meet the guidelines for being out of the 12-week period that's allowed for childcare issues. And the nurse sub rate, I honestly cannot remember what it is, Tom. I'm sorry. I think we're at, I can probably look it up. I think we're at 150 or 175 maybe.
So you're talking about almost doubling the nurses.
Because I don't even think since we moved it the last time we voted on it that we've been able to get nurse subs, because there's just a critical shortage of nurses in our area.
Mm-hmm. Let me do Ben first and then Kim.
Yeah, I had a question that was just related to Jamie's last point. Is this an issue more of equity and they should get paid more in relation to admin positions or anything like that? Or is it based on trying to increase supply? Since those it is both?
Yeah, I think it would be both, Ben.
And then I guess my follow-up question to Jane, would that actually work? I mean, it's my understanding there's a critical shortage of subs in there simply because there aren't the people. Would increasing the cost of drive in more unknown subs we don't already know? Or is it subs are saying, no, you cannot pay me enough currently?
No, and this is always the question, right? Will upping a wage actually generate more folks to come forward? I hope it will. What I think it will do to the detriment of those around us is that the folks who may choose to either go to Lebanon or go to Hartford on the days that they're in session may instead choose to come to us because we're a little bit higher than they are and we have more days available, potentially, right?
Kim?
Thanks. I wanted to kind of clarify Tom's question and kind of refresh Jamie's memory because I know there's been so many meetings. So Just to give a sense of when she's saying 30,000, I think what she's saying is 30,000 in addition to what is already being budgeted in the, let's call it the COVID budget. This is the budget that was presented to the Dresden Budget Committee and we opined on. Just to give you a sense of those numbers for Dresden only, it was at the time estimated that 21 potential staff members could need at least the 12 weeks of federally protected leave, and that would be at $126,000. Or an 8 could potentially have 2 weeks. Of course, these are all for an additional $8,000. So just to kind of give you a sense for the whole SAU wide, we're talking over $200,000 in potential additional subs. And that was all budgeted at $100 per day. So this would be kind of a quarter more than that, which was not considered in the budget committee numbers.
Right,
I just
so-
wanted to clarify what the numbers are.
Right. Thank you, Kim. I'm sorry. Yes, that is the whole picture. And so based on the total number that we're projecting, it would be across, that would be across all 3 districts. So it would be additional 50,000 across all 3. If the other 2 vote that, right? Because we're all individual districts. So
Yeah, and part of my question, Jamie, is timeliness associated with this.
yeah.
You probably wanted a decision tonight.
No, I don't think that's required. You know, I want to have a discussion about it. I think that it's okay. We know we have subs coming back. You know, and I think that once we have a better number of how many folks, I mean, in the next week and a half, we'll have a very good number of, you know, who we're needing to cover for. And I think that, you know, if we feel we're not being able to cover with whom we have, we could bring this back out for a vote. We have some other meetings, you know, that are scheduled that are coming up pretty rapidly.
Yeah, I guess for me, I think best case scenario is that maybe, you know, budget committee has a chance to just look through this really quickly.
Sure.
But ideally, I'm very hesitant to vote on something if we just added it to the agenda this evening under agenda review, because folks didn't know that we were going to be talking about this.
Right.
So if the timeliness aspect of this would lend itself to, you know, a special meeting, you know, I think we could certainly entertain something like that. Ben?
Yeah, just quick clarifying questions. Are there differences in pay based on long-term subs versus short-term subs, and any variation based on the experience of the sub? Or is it a set rate?
We changed the variation based on experience. I think it was 2 years ago, Ben, when we made some changes. So everybody is now getting the same. If it's a long-term sub, I think it's $10 higher. So it's still below where the other one is. I believe it's at 100 if it's a long-term. And I believe I think the length of term has to be 6 weeks or more. I'll double check that though with Amy, so that when we bring it back out, if we need to bring it back out.
If folks are amenable, I think it might make sense at the very least for this to come forward at a future board meeting, to the extent that the budget committee, you know, feels it would be beneficial to the full board for you guys to review this and opine on it. I would offer that up as well too. Kim, do you have thoughts as to whether or not there's value to that?
I think that makes sense. I think we're actually planning on having another budget committee next week. So I think we could probably add that to the agenda.
Okay. And then I will let Kelly know the results of this, and then she can maybe touch base with Jamie to determine whether or not we want to do a special meeting. If we think that we need to make some, you know, motion or vote of the board on this one, knowing that if the next meeting is just a little bit too far in the future to actually be of any impact. If there are no other questions on the sub and wage rate, then I think we could move forward to the VLAX tuition cost discussion.
Yeah, and please do forgive me. They did actually, both of these things came up today. I was not trying to bypass anybody. Things are moving rapidly in our world. So the VLAX tuition discussion came up from two different emails, or actually a phone call and an email. If I get a phone call from a parent and an email came in as well, after we posted our plan, I believe. And so, and it's been a source of discussion in the past. So I've put some information there, and the question was whether or not folks were rooted towards VLAX for coverage of different courses. And I know that Jay, I think, has been working with asking the state of New Hampshire whether or not they'd recognize our Norwich students as, New Hampshire resident students because we are an interstate school district. So I know that we're still waiting on that, on some information there. I don't know how far we're getting with that. But you can see the non-resident tuition is $1,007 per credit, and the courses range from 3/4 to 1.5 credits for most classes. So the parent, asked the question and said, do we pay for VLAX when Norwich kids want to go? In this specifically in this circumstance, I think. And I said, I don't know, but we're having a Dresden board meeting and I'm happy to, bring it up. Yeah, and Jay, I know you have more to add to this.
Yeah, I'll just say we have done that in special circumstances in the past, and I would think that these are special circumstances.
Ben.
Thanks. I guess just for those on the other side of the river and or somewhat newish to the board, a little context on what VLAX is and isn't, and past precedent, apart from special circumstances, all that kind of stuff. I have no idea what it is, to be honest.
I'm sorry. It's Virtual Learning Academy. That
Charter
is,
school.
Yeah, that is managed by, I think it's the state in conjunction with the state of New Hampshire. And I think it's available. They know more than I do. I don't know much about educational side, but I believe it's available for middle and high schoolers. And then I'll step away because I don't know much more than that.
Go ahead, Jay.
So VLAX has expanded. They now have some elementary offerings as well. The way charter schools work, they are official sanctioned public schools. Typically what happens if a student enrolls in a charter school, they become counted as within the ADM of that charter school. What they're doing during this period of COVID is that our VLAX students are continuing to be considered home district students. The caveat on it is that they have a really wide array of courses. They have certified teachers that provide those courses, but as you can imagine, there's a huge demand right now. So not every course is available. So that's what we're working against, is this all of a sudden this huge surge in demand is making it difficult for us to make that available for everybody for every course. So we need to monitor it. They're actually attempting to expand their teaching staff considerably, and we'll have to continually monitor that to see what we can offer and what's already full. And but it's publicly funded. It's available to any New Hampshire resident, and we have paid the tuition for our Norwich kids in the past, again, like I said, in special circumstances, and it's about $500 per course.
Lisa.
Yeah, I may be dreaming here, but I want to ask, would it be, could we work it so that Hanover kids could take advantage of the Vermont consortium and Vermont kids could take care of the Hanover consortium and just sort of take advantage of both aspects of the fact that we're a bi-state district, and have some sort of reciprocal agreement, which might free up some courses for the Hanover kids who are looking for online as well. And again, I recognize that that's getting two state departments of education to agree to do something that they may have no incentive of doing. But I'm just wondering, how we can take advantage of the fact that there is a similar consortium in Vermont for Vermont kids. Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
So the Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative, I have to get these acronyms right, in deference to Bruce Duncan, former board member. But the Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative requires that teachers from participating districts actually sign up to be instructors within the academy, which makes it markedly different than VLAX. But Sean Gagne has been to several meetings so far, and while we're kind of past the deadline to get teachers signed up, we're looking at the possibility of just what you suggested, Lisa, allowing even our Hanover kids to participate in that. But at a minimum, our Vermont kids are eligible for that. So, so when I say that we need to work with our families who are choosing remote learning, we're going to do our very, very best to align our staff who need to teach remotely with our students who need to learn remotely. And there will be dimensions of each of those individual kids' schedules that may require some sort of customization. Having those two tools, that will be very helpful. There are other options as well. And we have policies that we recently passed that give me a lot of latitude in approving alternative credit options for students. And so if we can find dual enrollment opportunities and other ways for kids we have our ELO process where we have extended learning opportunities that New Hampshire recognizes. There's a lot of different ways that we can find ways to fill in those specific needs that kids have. And we're just going to have to commit to doing that. And it's going to be hard. It might take a little while to get it all lined up. It won't be that we start on day one and everything's figured out. We'll do our best to get there, but it might take a week or two for us to actually align all this stuff. But those options will allow us to do a better job of customizing for the needs of those kids who are going to be learning remotely.
Thank you. I figured you all were on this, but I just wanted to ask for public discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And my neighbor works for VSAC and said that she would be happy to have a conversation with you because they have a lot of their students use this cooperative consortium, whatever the official name is for the Vermont program. And she'd be happy to help you sort of navigate it if you needed some help. So thank you.
Thanks.
Tom.
Thanks. I think actually a lot of my questions were just addressed in the exchange between Lisa and Jay. But I do have a couple more that I think are pretty easy. I don't know if we've discussed, are the Dartmouth courses still an option, even if they're remote for our students, should they wish to take them as yet another online learning option? And then do we have any sense based on what the questions you're getting, costs related to this, numbers of Vermont students who are interested in VLAX?
Sorry, Jay, go ahead.
Well, let's see, as far as VLAX is concerned, if it's a New Hampshire student, there's no cost. If it's a Vermont student, what typically has happened is we're charged about $500 a course. For the Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative, if we have educators who have kind of gone through the training and are actually open to providing online instruction, there's no cost. If we choose to participate without having instructors who are part of the process, then there is a cost. And I can't tell you what it is off the top of my head, but we'll look into that. But if we have a significant enough number of educators for whom we don't have the ability to align remote opportunities for work for them, this may be a viable option for us through the Vermont program. So we're looking at that as well. Sean's been he's been doing some sort of freelance negotiation, trying to figure out ways that we might be able to do that.
Thanks, Jay. And just the Dartmouth question. Are those classes an option for our students still?
That I'm not aware. I'm not sure how that dual enrollment program is. We'll have to look into that unless Dan has the answer.
Hey, Tom. So I looked at a couple of parents asked me about math classes in particular, and the what is it, the special student, I can't remember, the community, I can't remember what the acronym is. You probably remember it, but there's some for, you know, special community or whatever it is. Yeah, that's been suspended. They had, there were bandwidth access. There were a whole collection of issues which unfortunately have led to its suspension. For what it's worth, I was kind of curious, Jay, if there were, you know, for example, in so many places, like their edX courses, you know, certainly in math or Coursera or something where students could get certificates at the very least. And since generally speaking, students take advantage of the Dartmouth classes when they're highly advanced in a subject, not only under those circumstances, but often in those circumstances. And I could imagine that such a student getting a certificate there, that would look as good for colleges and serve the same purposes, and honestly also have much of the same content, and for a committed student, the same interesting learning opportunities. And I would encourage parents to, you know, for the few parents who are taking it for those kinds of reasons, that those are things to explore. And for what it's worth, as far as the math options go, I'd be happy to take emails from parents if they wanted to know, is this one better than that one or something like that. So anyway, thanks.
Jay, but then Garrett's been patiently waiting with his hand up. So
Sure, I would
just
to what Dan just offered, I would say that I'd really want, I want to make sure that our staff would know that I want to work with our departments to make sure we have a vetting process for those other opportunities. I don't want to open the floodgates and start sort of willy-nilly approving things, but like Dan's offer would be great if we had things that were rigorous and worthy of contemplating for credit. Then we want to be as flexible as we can.
Garrett. You're muted though.
There. So it looks like it's $1,000 per credit, and then every course. So what are we looking at for potential exposure here on the budget? I mean, is it just a few $1,000s, or are we talking potentially 20% of the Norwich kids that aren't coming back at 5 credits apiece? You know, now you're looking at like $250,000 or something. How would this work?
Jay or Jamie? Jay?
So our numbers aren't shaping up to be that dramatic. So this wouldn't be the idea wouldn't be that someone would take their entire offering through VLAX, for example, from Norwich. If they're from New Hampshire, there's no cost. But it's a pretty limited subset. It's going to be our Norwich kids that potentially would need our support to take the VLAX courses in New Hampshire. We won't really have a good handle on that until we really dig in. We're in this alignment process, and Jim and Julie and I were taking a walk into town today, just talking about, okay, as we get more information, we narrow in on these alignment issues between the staff we have available for remote instruction and the students that we have who are desiring remote learning. And they're at the point now where we're starting to hone in on which courses they're seeking and what we can support. And that alignment will dictate how many of those different students we need to find alternate provisions for. So we'll be bringing that information to you probably on a weekly basis now. And again, there may be some situations where we don't have this figured out till a week or so into school.
Although, Jay, to be clear, are there folks waiting for determinations on whether or not these costs will be covered?
I don't have numbers or names at this point, Neil, but we anticipate that we know we have a number of Norwich students who are choosing remote options, and as soon as the high school defines that for us, we'll have a better chance at quantifying it.
Yeah, because I'm inclined in maybe asking the budget committee along with the substitute rates to maybe take a look and see if there's some, back of the napkin calculations that can be done on this to get a better sense of budgetary impact, because I think that's really what it's going to boil down to, right?
But it's definitely not $250,000.
Yeah, no, got that. Yeah, you know, so if board members are generally fine with that approach, you know, I'd like to hand it over to the budget committee. I see Kim is smiling with that recommendation. She is now. And then if necessary, we can then just bring it forward to Dresden for a special budget meeting, or sorry, special board meeting if it's necessary to get something approved. All right. So if there's nothing else from board members related to the VLAX discussion, then I do want to move along into the agenda into approval of expenditures, I guess. Yes, approval of expenditures. And with that, I will look for a motion. Kelly.
Programs to work here. Excuse me, Neil. I move to approve voucher number 1139 to 1141 prior year expenditures in the amount of $116,043.63 and voucher numbers 2 to 6 and 1000 to 1012 in the amount of $4,501,756.71.
Great. Is there a second? Seconded by Rick. Any discussion? All those in favor, I guess we're going with the roll call. John.
Hunt, yes.
Tom.
Camden, yes.
Kim.
Hartman, yes.
Ben.
Heaney, yes.
Lisa.
Christie, yes.
Rick.
Johnson, yes.
Garrett.
Palm, yes.
Dan.
Rockmore, yes.
Kelly Hersey.
Hersey, yes.
I think that is everyone. And oh, sorry, Kim.
Point of order, I don't know if Garrett should be
Oh,
as the
sorry.
non-voting member.
How quickly we forget. That's all right.
Oh, yeah.
Garrett, that really sent that helped me on how I figured out how I was going to vote, and I will vote yes. All right.
I withdraw my vote.
Moving on then to approval of minutes from the June 23rd regular meeting. I'll look for a motion. Rick.
Move to approve the meeting minutes from June 23, 2020 regular meeting.
Is there a second? Seconded by Ben. Any comments? Questions? Changes? Seeing none. Roll call. John.
Hunt, yes.
Tom.
Camden, yes.
Kim.
Hartman, yes.
Ben.
Heaney, yes.
Lisa.
Christie, yes.
Rick.
Johnson, yes.
Dan.
Rockmore, yes.
Kelly.
Hersey, yes.
And Odell, yes. Moving on to the next one from the July 23rd meeting. Rick, you're on a roll. Go ahead.
The board will move to approve the minutes of July 23, 2020 special meeting as presented.
Seconded by Lisa. Any comments, questions, concerns, changes? John, go.
Hunt, yes.
Tom.
Camden, yes.
Kim.
Hartman, yes.
Ben.
Heaney, yes.
Lisa.
Christie, yes.
Rick.
Johnson, yes.
Dan.
Rockmore, yes.
Kelly.
Hersey, yes.
And Odell, yes. And then Jay, you had your candidate first is coming up in non-public, and then we'll go back in the public session afterwards.
Correct.
Okie dokie. Moving on then to committees reports. Any active committees and reports to bring forward? Budget, athletic. Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, go ahead if you want to.
No, the only thing I was going to say is the negotiations committee did meet with the HEA to review some proposed MOUs. We will review those with the full board in non-public session this evening. Kim, did you have something to?
Yes, so I won't give a Dresden Budget Committee update since that we provided our recommendations, but I would say if anybody is interested in what those recommendations were, please check out the SAU meeting that we had last week. And that was to recommend the affordability of the school reopening task force. And then kind of looking ahead that there has been some progress on the Dresden Finance Committee. So kind of wearing the Hanover Finance Committee hat and then therefore the Dresden Finance Committee hat, that there has been more discussions. And so I think as a board, we should start to think about and perhaps maybe something for an agenda about who that representative would be and how this Dresden finance representative would interplay with the Dresden Finance Committee. Again, this is separate from the budget committee. This is the finance committee that works with Norwich Finance Committee and the Hanover Finance Committee working together and restoring that position. So, oh, and maybe Tom has an update to that.
I do, sorry, Neil, may I?
No, absolutely.
I do. Unfortunately, it's not as positive as has been expressed. I think we're still in the process of reviewing the MOU that's gone back and forth with the select board. So we haven't finalized that yet. So technically there isn't a Norwich Finance Committee that's reviewing the education budget yet. However, it is on our agenda for Thursday. So we're going to take it up then, and I'm hopeful, and some of my Norwich board members are hearing this for the first time, that we will be able to come to some greater understanding on what we need to do to finalize the MOU, and if it all works out by our first meeting in September, which is the 2nd, we may be able to move forward on that if we can come to an agreement as a board and then with the Norwich Select Board on how to move ahead with that. But that's the current plan, and I take personal responsibility for the lengthy delays in this, and I am sorry, but we will move ahead with that in our next board meeting on Thursday.
Yep, go ahead, Kim.
And then just to end that, the reason why we were going to have a budget committee next week was that typically we would be kicking off the 2021-22 budget for board guidelines. I think everyone's done with 2020, but 2021-22 seems like it is coming pretty fast. And that was the original intent, was to develop what draft board guidelines would be in addition to discussing retainage, developing those recommendations for a September board meeting. We will also add those 2 other items, VLACs and subs as well. So those are all things that will be moving on the budget committee side.
Thank you, Kim. Any other committee reports? Seeing none. I have no chair report on Kelly's behalf this evening. Superintendent's report.
Well, I'll keep it brief given the time. But I mentioned in the SAU meeting that the highlight of my day today was going over to Richmond Middle School to meet with their 8th graders, and I was very grateful for the invite. And there weren't a lot of kids. It was like about 20 kids, half a dozen teachers, administration, and it was a great conversation. But I think one of the things that stood out for me was just the fact that when they went around after a fun icebreaker that we all did, really asked the kids about what their feelings were, whether they were scared or concerned, and every single one, well, actually, I take it back. All but one student expressed a real strong desire to return to in-person instruction. And they talked about being with their friends. They talked about being with their teachers. They talked about having had a hard time with remote learning. And one student did say that she really didn't want to be around people. And when pressed by one of the other teachers, whether that fear of being around people was due to COVID, she said, "No, I just don't like being around people," which was cute. And she said under any circumstances. So really everybody there expressed this really, really strong interest in being together. And John Lacrosse did a really nice job of sort of steering that conversation around what are we going to do to make sure that we're all safe together and that we all are looking out for each other's best interests. And even just being in each other's presence with masks on and reminding one another that we needed to move a certain distance apart physically to be safe in that venue showed me that this can be done. It's not going to be perfect, and it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of reminding, and we're all human. There will be mistakes. There will be kids that need to be continually re-educated on what the protocols are. But the fact that we were all together, really working together to try to make this work, was really special. And for all the Zoom meetings we've had, I really would like to go back and count how many Zoom meetings we've had for the last 6 months. This one chance to get together, to get face to face, was really, really important, and assured me that we're doing the right thing. There are a lot of questions, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of concern out there among everybody involved. But I also have to keep coming back to the fact that if things change, if we end up having a resurgence of COVID-19 in our area, regardless of what the details are around when we'll make the switch, we're going to be super sensitive to that and make a decision that keeps our health first and foremost. And we're in this together. I really have a renewed sense that being together face to face with our teachers and our students and our administrators is the way to go. And I shared with the board, and maybe I'll share it in a public document. There's a New York Times did a little calculator that sort of has an interactive map that shows what regions within the country are best poised to resume in-person instruction or should be going to remote instruction. And we're just fortunate that for whatever reasons, whether it's been things that we've done in terms of policy or procedures, or just the sort of random way the virus works its way around the globe, we're spared for now. And it's a real gift that we're able to give to our kids, to bring them back after 6 months of being separated, to give this a try. And as long as we're doing so fully aware and committed to keeping everyone safe, I'm excited for what we can accomplish, even if it's only for a week or two. If our teachers can make those connections with their students, and we're forced to change our mode and go remote, at least we'll have that initial opportunity to make the connections. And then I have full faith in our teachers that, based on what we learned from our experience last spring, remote learning will be better than it was. And there've been a number of teachers saying that I think we can do this like in a way that's much closer to our normal instructional program. We just have to keep moving that way, and we need to be prepared. And I think there are a lot of things are sort of informing us for our upcoming budget process that we're going to be going through together. We need to be looking at our technological infrastructure. We need to be thinking that there may be reasons for us to continue to offer options for remote learning even after COVID, and making sure that we have the capability to do that's going to be important. So there's so much ahead of us, and I really think that once we get past this period where we're dealing with people's concerns and fears and anxieties, there's a real opportunity for us to be creative and work together to ensure that we get back to that focus on outstanding education that really has been the hallmark of our Hanover and Norwich schools. So I'm excited for the work. I keep hearing more and more as people's fears become a little bit more allayed that people are ready to really move forward. And what I'm hearing from our principals and in the work that they're doing in their individual schools, I feel like they're hearing the same things. And so it's just time for us to really come together and do the best we can for our kids. And that's my report.
Thank you, Jay. Jamie? And I don't mean to put pressure on you, Jamie, but I am looking at the clock.
No, Jamie thinks she said plenty for tonight. Thank you. And if anybody has any questions, just send me an email.
Awesome. We all know where to find you. All right, board, just real quick before we head into non-public session, I do see that we've still got 2 hands up in the public, so I'm just going to take comments really quick. Let me go to Jenny Chambers first.
Hi, everyone. My name
Let me know
is
your
Jennifer
name,
Chambers.
which I already said in the town.
Sorry, thank you. And I live in Hanover, New Hampshire, and I have poor internet, so I apologize if this is garbled. Hopefully you can hear me. Really briefly, I just want to state as a teacher and a community member, my understanding is that the students that sign up for the remote academy cannot sign up for classes that are offered during the daytime academics and electives, but that they can participate in sports based on tonight. So that's my understanding, and I see some heads nodding, so that's good. What I would ask is that with homeschooling, my very sort of amateur understanding is that it's at the superintendent's discretion whether we offer electives and other classes to homeschoolers. And I would encourage us to look at as a district being consistent with what we do, because I'm very worried about having remote students that cannot participate in any of the daily activities, but then homeschoolers can. And with COVID, that line seems really gray. That being said, if we do offer electives to homeschoolers, I think we need to be very, very clear with what the electives are that they can take. And for sports and for electives, that there is the same screening at the point of entry for every student that is expected for the students in the first thing in the morning. That will ensure that the staff feels safe, that parents feel more safe. And I think our goal is safety right now with this bold move to open in person, which I fully support. I think we need to have the same safety protocols at the point of entry for every student. So if we accept homeschoolers, we need to establish screening for them when they enter our school. And so that's my 2 cents. I support all of these initiatives, but I do think we need to put the kids' safety first and look at every single body that they're interacting with and the staff that's interacting with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. And it sounds like Jay is in full agreement with all of that, or at least it looks that way with the thumb up. Let me go to Carol again.
Sorry, it's Carol from Hanover. I really am just now totally confused because I thought I had somebody going to full-time VLAX as a homeschooler, and maybe I misheard, but now I'm wondering if that is something that can be done on the remote option. So rather than get into all of those details right now, I'm wondering if it is possible to have some type of Q&A about homeschooling versus remote, something for just, I would love to talk to you, Dr. Badams, and I so appreciate that reach out. I know that there's a bunch of people who've been texting me and emailing me saying, let me know, please let me know what's going on. So I don't necessarily think that that information should be coming from me to them. And if there's some way we could maybe just have a little powwow. So whatever messages are going out in terms of policy with homeschooling and remote, and then having equal access to after school activities or whatnot, making sure that that's a clear policy. And that it's not, there's more than just me in the room. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, there's so the question that Carol raises and that really we just heard from Jenny as well. We'll verify with our attorneys, make sure that we're doing everything appropriately.
Thanks. With that, I do want to go into non-public session, so I will look for a motion from a member of the board. Rick.
Move to enter a non-public session under RSA 91-A:3 to B, the hiring of any person as a public employee, and to discuss information regarding union negotiations on MOUs and MOAs.
Thanks. Is there a second? Seconded by Kim. Roll call. I'll start with Tom.
Candy, yes.
John.
Hunt, yes.
Kim.
Hartman, yes.
Ben.
Eni, yes.
Lisa.
Christie, yes.
Rick.
Johnson, yes.
Kelly.
Mercy, yes.
Dan.
Rockmore, yes.
And Odell, yes. Board members, you should have the link from Josh earlier. We'll meet you in the non-public session.
Neil,
Yes.
can we get the link too if we're talking
about other things, or do you not want us there?
No, we can have you there. Who would need the link?
Me and Jim, I think.
Okay.
And Jim, if you want to start your drive, I can cover for you.
Yeah.
All right. I will send the link to you guys right now.
Thank you.
Are you there? Are they there for personnel?
I don't know what I'm there for.
We have a hiring.
Yeah, you have a French teacher.
Oh.
Yeah, they do. And Jamie, I think it might be helpful to have them there partly for the MOUs as well.
Okay, very good.
So for the public's knowledge, are we coming back?
We are coming back because we do have to approve a hiring.
Is Josh sending an email? Jim, you should drive.
Neil said he was sending one. We just got it. Did you get it? Yeah, you got it, Julie.
Okay. Deb, do you want it? Or you want to? That'd be good. I can forward it to you if you want it.
Sure, I'll go.
Casey McGuire, are you still up?
Hello.
Hey, Casey, it's Rick Johnson, Charlotte's dad. You're still sitting there waiting?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
No, I had to turn my video off because my computer is losing a lot of its battery. So I was hoping it would make it.
Okay. I think we're almost done.
Yep, we are. So welcome back to a public session. The one item that we have remaining on the agenda is approval of a 0.6 FTE Hanover High School French teacher. I will look for a motion. Anyone? Rick, sorry, go ahead.
Move to approve the hiring of a 0.6 Hanover High School French teacher for the 2021 school year as presented.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Ben. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Start with Dan.
Rockmore, yes.
Ben?
Heaney, yes.
John?
Hunt, yes.
Tom?
Handon, yes.
Kim?
Hartman, yes.
Kelly?
Percy, yes.
Rick?
Johnson, yes.
Lisa?
Christie, yes.
And Odell, yes. With that, I will ask if there are any other agenda topics for a future meeting from board members.
Can we figure out how to make a meeting longer?
I'll leave that to Kelly. Jay?
I have one way. I just want to thank the attendees that are still with us at 10:44. Thank you so much.
All right, if any other board members, oh, Kim.
Yeah, I think we need to resolve what to do with the extra bond proceeds. I think it was determined that if we have a fall sports program, particularly football, we would be buying crash pads. So I think we need to resolve what to do with that.
Okay.
Right
Noted.
now.
Sorry?
Can we bring it to the next meeting?
Yeah, no, I think that the suggestion is what items to add to future agendas.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I got lost.
Yep, Lisa?
Yeah, this isn't necessarily an agenda item, but I have a request. As someone who is facing her first budget season as a board member, I would really appreciate some orientation. So thank you. Thanks, Kim.
All right. If there are no other suggested agenda items in the future, I will look for a motion to adjourn. John?
Motion to adjourn at 10:46 p.m.
Seconded by Ben. Dan?
Yes. Rockmore, yes.
Ben?
Heaney, yes.
John?
Hunt, yes.
Tom?
Handon, yes.
Kim?
Hartman, yes.
Kelly?
Percy, yes, please.
Rick?
Johnson, yes.
Lisa?
Christie, yes.
Odell, yes, as well too. A huge thank you to all the members of the public that hang out with us tonight. We greatly appreciate your feedback and input and look forward to seeing you at the next board meeting.
And
Everybody
you have to be
have
the hardest working board in the school business. I can't believe the amount of hours you spend.
Yeah.
Can I
Thank you.
just
See you all
reiterate?
tomorrow and Thursday.
Can I just reiterate to those of you on the union committee that meeting, I sent you an email tonight, so check your email. It's
Okay,
been,
did
yeah.
you include Ben on it now?
I did. It's
Awesome.
been confirmed for tomorrow, and I'm sorry if you can't make it. We'll take good notes. I'm sending you notes tonight. That's what I'm typing up. So
What time is it for, maybe?
it's from 12:30 to 2.
Okay, good. 'Cause I'm not coming to the office till 9 tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
I have a meeting first thing, so.
See half of you tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, see ya.